Here's the book. Oh, can't find the book. I already took it down. Huh. What is missing? This is strange. OMG, where's the book? It's really strange. Okay, so for some reason, I can't find the book, but the book that is for the book club I was going to show. If you have not signed up for the book club, please go ahead and do so. And those instructions are in your weekly emails. The way you can get the weekly emails is to make sure that you are following on YouTube. Our YouTube is Pretty Petty Politics. If you're on TikTok, you can click the link, the YouTube link under description. There's a Google form, complete the Google form, and then you're officially enrolled. It doesn't cost you anything but your time and commitment. And if you're interested in the book club, you'll get an email. You need to send an email to prettypettypolitics@gmail.com saying, count me in. And when you do that, you will be counted in and you will receive all of the information that you need for the book club. I got to find that book, but right now is not the time to do it. So good morning and welcome back. This is week 12 of government. Speaking of government, today is day 88. I know people keep saying the first 100 days, baby, it's day 88. Day 88 of this administration, but that is not the focus of this course. If that is the reason why you're here, I'm glad you're here, but that's not the focus. The focus is on just navigating very well the structure and the structure of our Constitution and the applicability of constitutional amendments, congressional acts, and how laws shape this union, this nation, this republic, this democracy, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, because it's all of those things. It is a union, it is a republic, it is a democracy. But if people are unaware or lack knowledge and understanding of how these things work, then what control can they exhibit? What control do they have? All right. So last week, if you weren't here last week, or again, if this is your first time, all of our classes are recorded to YouTube. And you can catch up there on YouTube at Pretty Petty Politics. And you can see the past classes. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find something here. Going through my book. All right, so the text for this class is the U.S. Constitution. And I've done this before, and I'm going to do it again today because I don't think I can emphasize it enough. The U.S. Constitution is the preamble, 7 articles, and the signatures of the framers. The amendments are additions added on to the Constitution. Most people, if you ask them about what they know about the Constitution, they're going to refer to some amendment. They're going to probably refer to the second freedom granted in the First Amendment. Who can tell me what that second freedom is that is granted in that First Amendment? Because that's usually people's go-to. Who can tell me what that is? I'm looking to see who's going to go first, YouTube or TikTok. What is the first freedom granted in the amendments? I mean, what is the second freedom granted in the First Amendment? Who knows it? Just take a guess. It's a bunch of y'all on here, so just take a guess. And welcome everyone who's joining on YouTube. So good to see you here. Still waiting on that answer. So I want to make sure y'all are tuned in properly. Still no answer? What y'all think it is? Just take a guess. Just take a guess. Guess, not guessed. Free speech. Yes, Courtney. That's what most people think of. They think of free speech. And that's not the answer. That is the answer to what most people think. But in reality, that is just an amendment, right? The Constitution, what we need to really take heed on, appreciate, understand is the Constitution itself. The Constitution was encapsulated in those 7 articles. So the Constitution is 7 articles. Article 1, legislature. All right. Article 2, executive. Article 3, judicial. Most of us know those as the 3 branches of government, but the Constitution does not stop there. Okay. The Constitution does not stop there. The Constitution continues. Article 4, when we look at Article 4, we're really seeing how states interact with the federal government, but also with one another. Okay. Article 4 is what we consider like our federalism article. All right. And Article 4 is super duper important. Article 5 is all about amending this document. All right. Article 5 gives us the structure, the procedures to amend this document, the Constitution. And I'm going to refer to a historical figure shortly. So please make sure you're ready to take notes. All right. So please follow along, take notes. Also, make sure you review Articles 1 through 7 of the U.S. Constitution. That document is what we uphold. Okay. Not discounting the amendments. If you've been here, you know the 14th Amendment is my favorite. So notwithstanding the amendments or not disregarding the amendments or the Bill of Rights, I need you to understand that the Constitution, those 7 articles, is what empowers us as a union, as a republic, as a democracy, as a nation. All right. So this historical figure, several years ago, had to have been several years ago because he's been deceased now 9 years. Justice Anthony Scalia spoke to Congress, right? And when he was speaking to Congress, and I'll provide video footage to you all of him speaking to Congress, addressing Congress, like during a hearing. I will provide video footage of this in the email after this class. So if you're not registered, you need to get registered before the end of class so that you don't miss this email. Nevertheless, Justice Scalia, as he spoke to Congress, he emphasized so strongly the importance of the actual Constitution. And he went in on a rant about how the Bill of Rights although important, and they are, or it is, as well as the other amendments, as important as they are, the Constitution is the main thing. All right. The Constitution is the main thing. And everyone has a Bill of Rights, but the Constitution is what strengthens and holds the structure together. Okay. So make sure, I can't emphasize this enough, make sure you are reviewing the Constitution. And I will tell you, the Constitution is not very long at all. The longest part is going to be Article 1, arguably because it has 10 sections. All the other articles have 1 to 4 sections. Article 4 having 4. But Article 1 is the longest of them all, and it's because it has 10 sections. All right. And Article 1 is where we get the structure of Congress, the requirements of Congress. Many, not all, but many of the powers of Congress are outlined in Article 1. Okay. All right. Any questions before I go further? If today is your first time here, give me a high five in the comments. If today is your first time here, give me a high five in the comments. And also, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So last week, I introduced to you, we were talking about voting and barriers or hurdles related to voting. And today we're going to go into some other areas. So in the description of let me find it. Let me pull up my email. In the description for today's class, week 12, it should list what this section is about. Okay. It should list out what this section is about. What was last Saturday? The 10th? The 12th. Can't remember. The 12th. Let me go to my email. So last Saturday, the focus of the class was voting, gerrymandering, redistricting, and there's something I'm forgetting. All right. But I want to talk to you this morning. I cannot believe I don't know where this book is. This is really bothering me because people come to my house and I think they think this place is a library and they just check out books and they don't always sign them out. Yes, I make people sign books out. But anyway, I'll find it. But today we're going to talk about redistricting. All right. Today we're going to talk about redistricting, how it shapes and influences how we vote, where we vote, voting patterns, funding, and all of those things. So, are you ready? Again, high five in the comments if this is your first time. Peace sign if you are a returning viewer, participant, student, enrollee. All right. Peace sign if you're returning. High five if it's your first time. Go ahead and do that for me. And for those of you who are on YouTube who will be watching this playback, good morning. So happy to have you here. Make sure you click that bell and subscribe. I am shooting to, I think we're just shy of 800 subscribers. Yay. But of course, I'm shooting to get to 1,000. I am. So if you're not following on YouTube, make sure that you go to YouTube, Pretty Petty Politics, and you subscribe. You go back and you look at the previous recordings for this course. There's other content there, but I want you to focus on this course and make sure you complete, not just subscribe, but make sure you complete that Google form under the description so that you know how you can join this global classroom. And so you can start receiving the material and information that goes out in emails. All right. Okay. So let's look at redistricting. When does redistricting occur? Redistricting occurs after a census. So now we have to ask ourselves, well, when do we have a census? A census is taken every 10 years in years that end with zero. Okay. In years that end with zero, we have a census. Okay. In years that end in zero, we have a census. The census is a data grab, data grab, a survey, if you will, of the population that is present in the United States. So let's say, even though we know this year is 2025, let's say this year was a year that ended in zero. That would mean earlier this month, we would have taken a census count. All right. We would have taken a census count. And in that count, we would have been identifying the number of people present in the nation, but we would do it categorically by state, by county, by city. In addition to just counting them, we would identify certain demographical, I guess, definitions about those individuals. What is their gender? What is their race? What is their ethnicity? What is their age? Right? Because that helps all shapes or sizes or forms of government to have an understanding of the makeup of their population. So whether we're looking at the federal government knowing gender, age, yada, 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 or if it's your state, or if it's your county, or if it's your city, it provides data so that services and programs and needs can be, well, those things can be made available through funding, right? Through funding, which is allocated through Congress, but funding for those areas. In addition to that, we use the population count. And remember, the population count comes with those details. That is not to be forgotten. So we use that population count to do what we call redistrict. So in years that end with 1, so if this year was a year that ended in 0, next year, a year that ended in 1, you would see, not that it has to wait to the year that has a 1, but you would see an overwhelming number of state legislatures, right, going in and beginning to draw maps, not actually draw them, beginning to present maps, because they've already drawn them. As soon as the data comes out, they have them ready. They've drawn them, and I don't mean by hand, very much so electronically, but they are looking at the population groups across their states, and they begin to reapportion. Well, let me go back. Let me reel that in. Before the legislative bodies do that, when we get the data from the census, so yeah, let me step back. When we get the data from the census, one of the first things that happens is there is a reapportionment of Congress. So Congress is made up of 535 voting members. There are delegates in Congress that represent territories and district, well, the District of Columbia and our various territory nations. So the United States Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Guam, the Mariana Islands, so on and so forth. So those places have delegates, whereas states have actual voting members of Congress. So every state already constitutionally, through Article 1, every state already has 2 U.S. senators. So that's done, right? But also through Article 1, every state has an apportionment of U.S. representatives that represent their state in the House of Representatives. based on that, right? Based on the census data, those 435 seats, because remember, every state has two, so that means 100 of those members of Congress are in the Senate. So the remaining 435 voting members are in the House of Representatives. Those 435 seats get reapportioned based on population after the census. So, for instance, California lost congressional seats after the last census. So 5 years ago, after the 2020 census, because what happened in California with their population? Why would they lose seats? Someone tell me. What happened to California's population? Did it stay the same? Did it rise? Or did it drop? So did it stay the same? Did it rise? Or did it drop? It decreased. Yes. It dropped. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Both screens, TikTok and YouTube. So it dropped. They saw a decrease in population because they took a hit in population. Their congressional seats were reapportioned. Okay. But who were they reapportioned to? Two states that had gains. Some states had losses, some states have gains, because here in these United States, we are free to travel about the nation. We are free to be born in one place and live in another. Okay, you're not beholden to the place where you were born. We travel, we move, we start over, we start new lives, new careers. So people move for a myriad of reasons: career, family, economic reasons. Maybe it's not affordable anymore, so you move to a place where the cost of living is better. Some people move based on political ideology. Okay, so taking all of that into consideration, that impacts where people end up. So as people move and it impacts the population, then those seats get reapportioned. So also in 2020, Texas, right? You see Texas on my sweater here. Texas had an increase in population. Okay. Texas, so between 2010 and 2020, Texas experienced an increase in population. Due to that increase and the decrease in other states, due to that increase, Texas gained 2 congressional seats. Okay, 2. That's significant. That represents about 2 million people. No, not 2 million. Let's just say 1.5 million people, say 1.5 people, because generally a congressional district is about 750,000 people, give or take. A congressional district is made up of about 750,000 people. So after the 2020 census in 2021, and I'm basing this on Texas, the Texas legislature had maps that they redrew to change the districts and to include, they had to draw in the 2 new districts. One of those new districts is right here in the Houston area. So when they, after the reapportionment, the receipt of these 2 districts, they had to fit that into the framework of the state. So you may have been in a congressional district all your life, say you've never moved, and then the person who's probably been your member of Congress for the past, let's say 10 years, suddenly is no longer your member of Congress. And it's not because you did anything, it's because a census was taken and population changed, and so the map changed. So the people who draft the district maps are not members of Congress. They are members of your state legislative body. Okay. And so I'm going to add to this. whichever party is the party of majority in your state legislature, then they will have the power to redistrict you, perhaps, or to draw district maps for your state that will stand for the next 10 years. So it's very, very impactful what happens after a census. So it's not just like, oh, this is going to affect us for a couple of years. No, this is going to impact us for years to come. Okay. So that's one part. All right. That's a significant part. Are there any questions with that? All right. So again, the redistricting based on population is solely confined to your state legislative bodies. Okay. Voters don't get to choose. Congress does not get to choose. Now, your members of Congress may have they may voice some concerns, some consideration, some requests, but they do not determine how those maps are drawn. And I will tell you, whoever is the party in power, meaning the majority party in your state legislature, that's who's going to have the power to determine what happens. All right. They typically, let me say typically, not all the time, but generally, they will be redrawing those boundaries, those district boundaries, so that it's more favorable to their party. Okay. And it don't matter the party, they all do it. Okay. So don't be like, oh, those Republicans, the Dems do it too. All right. So let's be clear that it gets very partisan. Okay. Now, I want to talk about gerrymandering. Gerrymandering. Who knows what gerrymandering is? Please share if you know what gerrymandering is. Please share if you know what gerrymandering is. And while you're doing that, good morning once again. Welcome to our government course. This is week 12. And we're talking about voting, redistricting, gerrymandering, all these things. All right. All right. I'm trying to see the comments. Structuring a congressional district to strongly favor one party. Good job, Amber. Anyone else? Anyone on YouTube want to give feedback on gerrymandering? All right. Now, let me tell you who benefits. Yes, it is a redistricting. Gerrymandering is a redistricting. It's just, Nita says manipulation. Tomato, tomato, but yes. Yes. All right. So who benefits from gerrymandering? Oftentimes it's the incumbents. It's the persons who are already in office, in congressional office. Those are the folks, and I'm talking about the House of Representatives, because remember, you're a U.S. senator for your state. You have two, and your U.S. senators for your state. They don't represent one district. They represent the entire state. Okay. So when we're talking about gerrymandering, the focus is more so on how this will impact the House of Representatives. So like for me, my member of Congress prior to the 2020 census was Dan Crenshaw. All right. Texas Congressional District 2. Dan Crenshaw was my member of Congress. When the 2020 census was conducted and the redistricting was implemented with new maps, because of the addition of one district to, say, the Houston metro area, things shifted. So Dan Crenshaw's district moved further north. I'm more central. And so when they redrew the lines, then what's her name? I can see her face. Lord have mercy. Congressional District 7. I can't think of her name right now. Fletcher, right? Fletcher became my member of Congress. I can't even think of her first name, but her last name is Lily. Lily Fletcher? Y'all blame my head, not my heart. Anyway, she became my member of Congress when redistricting took place. Had I not moved, right, and I barely moved, y'all, right, but had I not moved, I would still be in Congressional District 7. But because I moved, I'm now in Congressional District 18. All right. It's not like there's a gap between districts where it's like no man's land. They are stacked on one another. So just like every finger, there's no gap between, there are no gaps between these districts. And even though each of my fingers are different lengths, right? Each of them are different lengths. They all have about the same number, if these were districts, right? They all have about the same number of people residing in them. So like my pinky would be smaller in size, but it would be more compact in population. So the further you move out of an urban area, the larger that district will appear, right? And the district not just appear, the larger it will be. So the larger a district is, doesn't mean it has more people. It's probably less densely populated. So if you live in the city of Houston, your congressional district probably is physically much smaller in square miles than if you live in a more suburban or rural area, because now they're covering more space trying to build up to that 750,000 or more people, which make up a district. Okay. How's that going for you all? It's good. Y'all got to talk back to me. We good? Give me thumbs up. And if you're just joining us, thank you for joining. We are streaming live to YouTube here in our global classroom. This is found on YouTube as Pretty Petty Politics. This is federal government. We are looking at redistricting and gerrymandering right now. And we're going to talk about a few examples. And last week we talked about laws around voting. So if you're just joining us, thank you for being here. Make sure you like, follow, and share. And make sure you go over to YouTube and you subscribe to our YouTube page. All right. All right. We good? All right. So, in last week's email, so the email from the 10th of April. So if you didn't get the email, that means you entered it wrong or you never registered. But in last week's email, I included a documentary. How many of you watched that? How many of y'all had a chance to watch that documentary? With a show of hands or some type of emoji, just show me if you were able to watch that documentary. Nobody? Oh, okay. Oh, not the sad face. All right. So it's in your email. There's a link to it from your April 10th email, which I sent immediately after class. Y'all should be proud of me because y'all know I be waiting to the last minute with them emails some days, but I sent it as soon as we were finished. All right. Courtney watched it. I think Nita watched it. All right. IKNK, you missed it. Okay, well, go back and watch it. But in that documentary, it talks about packing districts. All right, packing and cracking districts. And so when you watch the documentary, pay close attention to that demonstration. And I think in that part of the documentary, they're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, so North Texas. So please just make, and it's not because I'm in Texas that I chose that. It talks about different states throughout the documentary, but that particular part when they talk about cracking and packing districts, right? So cracking a district is breaking it up, and packing a district is putting all of a similar population group into one area. All right. Bertha, you have to be registered. You have to be registered to get the email and those references. I'm not sharing. Now, someone else in the class may share, but I'm not sharing. If you did not register, that means you did not get the email, or you enter your email wrong. You got to be a part of the actual enrollment to get those bonuses like that. But it is in the email. All right. I know that sounds cold, but hey, membership has its privileges. Okay, so let's keep going. Many people believe that gerrymandering is why house districts are not competitive. Like, why, when someone gets elected to Congress, to the House of Representatives, why they're able to stay in so long is because of gerrymandering. You know, the gerrymandering makes it more favorable to the incumbent. Thus, competition slips away. Competition is not as prevalent. All right. It's not as prevalent. In most states, the more urban a district is, or an area is, the more urban an area is, the more liberal leaning it will be. Whereas the more rural an area is, the more conservative the voters will be. And I don't think that's wrong. I think that's quite accurate. We can see it when we look at maps. Now, if you ever see a map and the whole state is one color, it's a whole lie. It is meant to manipulate and to be misleading, simply because of what I just said about urban, suburban, rural, right? Also, a lot of states are not even heavily populated. So, like, when you look at a state like Montana, Montana probably has just as much wildlife as it has people, right? And so, are you telling me that the moose are voting? Are we counting the moose? And so that's why the state presents a certain way. So look for maps that are generally blank with blots of red or blue. Red representing conservative, blue representing more liberal leaning areas. The reason why I'm emphasizing this is so that you can see the makeup clear. The makeup of, where's that other phone? The makeup of voters more clearly. I can't reach it. Trying to get my other phone so I could show you, but I won't worry about it. So just keep that in mind. Won't go there. Let's deal with gerrymandering. So, are you in an area that has been gerrymandered? What's the shape of your congressional district, right? Have you ever looked at the shape of your congressional district? Like, how is it shaped? Is it just like carved out into a nice, neat square or some identifiable shape? Or is it very rigid and shaped, like almost like somebody cutting out a remember we were look like origami or what's those things in the wintertime as kids they would have snowflakes. Like, is your district shaped like a snowflake? Like, it's just very odd. It has these spots in it that are not a part of the district but surrounded by the district, right? So I got folks responding, I'm in Ohio. Some are kind of normal and some districts are crazy looking. Another person says, definitely gerrymandered. Courtney says they're like crazy puzzle pieces. Courtney's like me. She's in Texas. They are. They are crazy shaped. If you look at, if you could pull up, and I'm using Texas as an example. If you pull up Texas and you look at the Houston Metroplex or the Houston metropolitan area, oh, Courtney's in Georgia. What's the other girl's name who's always on here that is in Texas? Okay, thank you, Courtney. Sorry about that. But when you look at, say, Houston, like the Houston metro area, which is like 5 or 6 counties, you can see how jacked up the gerrymandering is. And the further you go out from Houston, the less like crazy shapes. Like this could be a district. I hope that not a gang sign, but you can see how crazy shaped the districts are. So like look at Congressional District 18, right? Congressional District 18 in Texas. Look at the shape of it. Baby, what is that? It looked like a dragon. It like you told a little 3-year-old to draw a dragon. And that's what they came up with. All right. And that is intentional. It is intentional for these districts to look like that. All right. So, any questions about gerrymandering? Any questions? No? We sure? Any questions about gerrymandering? All right. So, elections. Let's talk about elections. Elections and how all these things play a role. Elections, voting, because elections and voting are two different things. They play with each other, but elections have politics. So elections, how are elections ordered in your state? Do you know what happens if there's who handles, let me start with this. Who handles elections in your state? Let's see what kind of review we have. Who handles elections in your state? Who has the authority over elections in your state? And most of us should have the same answer. I feel like every state has the same answer. So who oversees elections in your state? And if you know the actual person's name, even better. Claire, our Secretary of State. Okay, that is correct. Secretaries of State oversee elections in every state. Here's the thing. In every state, not all secretaries of state are elected. So in the state of Texas, the Secretary of State is appointed. They are not elected. It is not an elected office. So I want you to write down that question. Is my state, comma, and then write your state. Is my state Secretary of State elected? All right. And you need to know that. Is that an elected position or is it an appointed position? Okay. Because if it's an elected position, more likely than not, that person will not that they're not going to be affiliated with a party, but they will be more independent in their execution versus someone who's appointed, because now they've been called to a duty. Not that they both not going to play by a game, but I'm just saying. All right. So your Secretary of State, I do want you to identify whether your Secretary of State is, and you don't have to do it right now, but are they elected or are they appointed? And I think that should be important to you. All right. Your Secretary of State, although they have oversight of elections, elections are carried out by whom? Who carries out elections in your state? The title may vary state to state, but who carries that out? Who carries that out? Melody, what state are you in? Who carries out elections in your state? So we got recorder, board of elections, and I'll say what we have here in Texas, and in many states we have the clerk. All right. So Melody is in Maryland. Thank you. So in Maryland, your person is elected. Thank you, Melody, for giving us that. In Texas, we have our clerk, county clerk. So every state is different. So your clerk, your recorder, your board of elections, they carry out the elections. That means they ensure locations are sufficient to provide ample places for residents of your county to vote. Okay. Not only that, they make sure the equipment is up to date, that things as small as the paper, the ballot paper is provided, right? So every location has the supplies it needs. So we got Board of Elections, and we also have California is elected. Louisiana is elected. All right. And these are good to know. And you should question why they're elected or not elected. All right. So the clerk is, or the recorder, or the board of elections, that county person or persons. Their job is to facilitate the election by providing the supplies, tools, and resources for voting. They also will print those sample ballots. So they'll provide on their website sample ballots based on party when it's a primary election, and then the candidates for general elections. They make announcements of when and where elections will take place. Counties I can't speak for every state, but in Texas, counties can determine the time frame that elections take place in their county. I don't mean time frame in terms of it being earlier than or later than 7 p.m., but I mean like unless the legislature says different. I got to throw that in there. Counties often have some freedom around setting how long voters have to vote. For instance, in Harris County in 2020, we had 24-hour drive-through voting. We had two things. We had 24-hour voting during early voting, and we had drive-through voting. We don't have that no more. Legislature got that up out of here. But it was very beneficial because it helped a lot of voters who otherwise may not have been able to vote. One, we had COVID-19 going on. So some people were in groups where, it was safer for them to do it from a vehicle. But the 24-hour also allowed those people who work on schedules that don't allow them to otherwise vote during that 7 to 7 time frame, right? Like truck drivers, right? People who do long haul. It gave them flexibility. In many states, you have early voting. Maybe you have it for 2 weeks. Maybe you have it for 10. Maybe you have it for 7, right? We've seen legislative bodies once who've had it expanded, who have now reduced early voting from what may have used to be 14 days to 10 or even less, where some states you have voter registration must be completed 30 days before the election. In other states, you can register to vote and vote on the same day. Like you can basically vote, register on the spot and vote. Okay. Amber makes a great point. She says, if only we made election day a holiday to help people to be able to vote. Yeah, I think I expressed that last week about Brazil, right? So yeah, voting and elections and voting go hand in hand, but the persons and people who shape our elections locally are at the county level. It's not your mayor, it's your county officials, whether that's a clerk, a recorder, a board of elections, and your county commissioners, right? May play a role in that too, in that decision making as well. All right. Y'all following along? Okay. We're about an hour in. So I just want to make sure everybody's good. All right. If you're just joining us, welcome. We are in federal government. We are talking about elections, voting, gerrymandering, and redistricting. This is week 12. Make sure that you are following here on TikTok as well as on YouTube. On YouTube is Pretty Petty Politics. If you're streaming this from TikTok, go ahead and click the YouTube link on my profile and it will take you to the YouTube page. There is a description on the YouTube. There is a Google form under that description. Complete that, and that is how you become enrolled in this course. All right. And if you're coming across this on YouTube and you're not enrolled, you do the same thing. Click that Google form in the description. Then you will be enrolled and you will begin to receive our emails that have resources that are not readily provided verbally during these recordings, and other information. All right. Thanks so very much. All right. So we've talked about the census, we've talked about gerrymandering, redistricting. So you have the overall view of how these things work. Now let's look at, sorry, I just had a blank come across me. Now I want to look at how these things can be influenced and how you can see, what's the word I want to use? How small groups, industries, what do you call it? Interest groups, lobbyists, how they can, or industries can influence your elections and your voting laws, right? And we see this happen oftentimes. They will influence your elected officials in your state legislature in a way that causes them to vote for or even sponsor legislation which changes the law of your states and directly impacts how voting is done. So when we look at voting, we haven't always had voter ID laws, and we've gone over this, like we've exhausted that. But we haven't always had these voter ID laws. We know they came about pretty much immediately following Shelby versus Holder. We saw this influx across the nation, particularly in a certain type of state where it was more prominent to require these very specific types of voter identification. Well, right now, we're seeing in the United States, both in our states' houses as well as in our federal legislature, we're seeing legislation that is moving swiftly to impact voting, who can vote, right? And so the SAVE Act, the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act. So you may want to look at your state legislature to see what they've been working on as it relates to legislation, voting legislation. whether they're modeling this SAVE Act or if they have something similar to it. All right. Now, the opposite of the SAVE Act is legislation that has yet to be passed through Congress, and that is the John Lewis Act. All right. I'm going to give you the full name. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act of 2023. All right. That is the name of it. And it has yet to pass through Congress. Okay. It has passed the House of Representatives, but it has not passed the U.S. Senate. Okay. However, when we look at the SAVE Act, where has the SAVE Act been successful? Anybody know? The SAVE Act. Oh, let me look at my comments. When it comes to Congress, what's going on with the SAVE Act? So it passed the House. So now it has to make it through the Senate. Okay. It has to make it through the Senate. So this is legislation. I want y'all to hear me, Texas. This legislation was sponsored by a member of Congress, a representative, Chip Roy, not Chip Ahoy, Chips Ahoy, but Chip Roy from the Austin metro area, right? Austin, Texas, which is the capital. Chip Roy sponsored this legislation in the United States House of Representatives, and it passed the U.S. House of Representatives, right? I want to say last week. But you know, these days are running together. All right, so that passed the House of Representatives, but it has yet to make its way through the U.S. Senate. Okay. It has yet to make its way through the U.S. Senate. It needs 60 votes in the Senate, just as the John Lewis Act needs 60 votes in the U.S. Senate. Okay. So why am I expressing this? Now I want you to look at your state legislature. Does your state legislature, have they sponsored any acts or bills similar to or modeled after the SAVE Act that Chip Roy sponsored in the House of Representatives, which he sponsored successfully? Has your state passed anything like that? All right. I want you to look at that. Has your state? Here in Texas, we have a bill like that. All right. It passed maybe 2 weeks ago. Let me look it up. I have it saved somewhere. Well, I thought I did. All right. But has your state done anything similar? So Texas is now requiring proof of citizenship to vote. All right. So, opposite of what happened in the federal government, in Texas, and our state Senate is made up of 31 individuals. Our state House is made up of 150, so 181 members of the state legislature. The state Senate passed a bill. Just a few weeks ago, they passed a bill that would require proof of citizenship to vote in elections here in Texas. The headline reads, Senate Bill 16 would create new barriers for voters and new burdens for election officials. All right. Because in order to register to vote, what this legislation is providing, in order to register to vote, you must have proof of citizenship. So in Texas, we have what we call VDRs, and their official name is Deputy Voter Registrars. Volunteer Deputy Registrars. And so basically, you take a course, you get certified, and you attest to the fact that you will uphold these laws and yada, yada, yada. And you can begin to register people to vote, like in your, at the grocery store, at your church, in your community organizations, at a farmer's market. You know, when it's election time, you see these people out trying to get people to register to vote. Those are essentially VDRs, right? They are people who have regular citizens. Oftentimes they're not paid for this, but they are, and I don't know a state that pays people to do this, because if you're paid, you would be an employee, so you would not be a volunteer. Okay. But people who go out into the community to register people to vote. With this change, if or and when it passes the Texas State House, with these changes, individuals who ordinarily register people to vote, they would have to ask people to provide proper identification, proving their citizenship before they can even register. I want y'all to sit with that. So you want these folks who are not identification experts, and it could be very offensive to someone, because some people don't know how to prove their citizenship. Some people think their driver's license is proof of citizenship. It is not. It is not, right? So having to prove their citizenship in order to register to vote. Now, if you do have a driver's license that is a real ID with that gold star, that would be a little bit different. All right. So the lawmakers in Texas are responding to a national campaign to implement such laws. Okay. They are driving this idea of this flood of non-citizens that are voting. Last week, I shared with you that you can visit, and here's something, I'll be trying to give y'all some stuff. You can visit the Heritage Foundation, and you can just Google Heritage Foundation, voter fraud. They have a whole database, okay? And you go on their database, and you will see the last 40 years, how many incidents have been recorded. It's under 2,000 in 40 years. In fact, I want to say it's 1,576 or 1,546, something like that. But it's less than 2,000. It's less than 1,600. Okay. And the Heritage Foundation is one of the most conservative think tanks in the country. All right. So I'm not using any bias as I provide this information to you. So despite that insignificant number, can y'all see this little split? in spite of that, or despite that small number, we're going to impact every damn body. Now, how does this impact county officials? Because now they have to strategically implement processes and steps and trainings, so much or more stuff to align with these new proposed laws if they are passed. Okay, if they are passed. If you're following along, thank you. Got a question here. And are the volunteers liable if they get it wrong when reviewing IDs? Girl, that is a good question. What type of liability? I think what you're going to see is a drop in volunteers because of the possible liability. And it's probably a criminal penalty or a fine. You will see a drop. I'm pretty sure you will see a drop. Passports. I think what happens is, because only about 10% of people in the United States, citizens, only about 10% of our voters citizenship group don't have like a real, not a real ID, but a voter ID. So like, we have these voter ID laws. Many people in areas don't have that. Most places that have voter ID laws, a state issued a driver's license for that state. And so a driver's license issued for that particular state would be acceptable as a voter ID. Okay. But most people also who do have a driver's license, there are still many people who don't have a real ID. And you got to have that by what, May 1st of this year? Okay. And you've got to start asking yourself, why are they implementing all this stuff? And then why are they not making it easy? If you're going to implement something, at least make the steps easy and accessible, right? Why are we jumping these hurdles to get something that we have a right to? You mean to tell me it's that big of a problem, but we don't see it? All we do is hear it, and we hear the same thing repeated, but we don't see it. You're not showing it to us. Okay, critical thinking once again. All right. So, types of or ways you can prove citizenship. All right. Ways you can prove citizenship. Passport. All right. A lot of people don't have a passport. Passport costs $130. Okay. Passport. Birth certificate. Many of us, grown as we are at our big old ages, we do not have our original nor a copy of our birth certificate. A lot of people don't have their birth certificate because their mamas got them. Y'all mamas do not be trying to come up off them birth certificates. What you need it for? Right? But birth certificates, passports, those are viable ways to prove your citizenship. All right. Yes, Valerie, it can very well be argued as a form of voter suppression. All right. But this has not yet passed the Texas House, but it has passed the Texas Senate. All right. So what will happen is, once it's passed through both chambers, then instructions will be sent to the Texas Secretary of State by the end of the year, and giving the Secretary of State instructions to send all counties. We have 254 counties. I'm using Texas as an example just to show you how tedious this is. All counties a list of the already registered voters, so people who are already registered voters, some for decades, in this state, who have yet to provide their proof of citizenship prior to September 2025. Y'all, How people don't know? How will people know they have to prove this by September 2025? Who do you think that burden falls on to provide this information to voters? Who foots that bill? For most places, I would imagine the county clerk's office would not only have to do a media campaign and a social media campaign and a community campaign, they will, which costs money, they will also have to do mailers. They would have to mail something to all the voters in their county because not everybody uses social media. But voters need to be informed that they need to take these next steps because ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? So if these people show up to, say, the March, we have our primary election in March, or even better yet, let's say there's someone who lives in my congressional district. If you've been here, you know my member of Congress has passed away. We will not have a special election until November. He passed away March 5th, so essentially, what is that? 7 months, right? So essentially, we won't vote until November 4th. What if by September 2025 you haven't proven your citizenship because you didn't know you needed to, because you've been voting and you are a citizen, you've been voting for the past 30 years, and now you go to vote and we're talking, I won't use the November election, I'll use the March one. You go to vote in March for the primary and you're screwed because you didn't have that ID. You don't have the identification to prove your citizenship. Yes, you have the ID that fits the voter ID laws, but you don't have the identification to prove your citizenship. So now your voter registration is called into question. It sounds far-fetched, it sounds crazy, because it is. It is very much so crazy. But this is what this new law can look like come next March. So 11 months from now. All right. So there will be a lot of system updates that would have to take place in order to prove that people are citizens. I don't know. I think back to the Constitution, right? Not the amendments. We know we got these amendments that give us the right to vote, right? Several of them, right? But I think back to the Constitution itself, particularly Article 4, because Article 4 has this full faith and credit clause. What if your birth certificate is called into question by someone who doesn't perceive your out-of-state birth certificate being sufficient to vote in this state or any state? Just, or what if one of those VDRs is registering you and tells you, okay, I need to see proof of citizenship, and you give them an out-of-state birth certificate and they tell you, well, I can't use this, you can't use this, because of being unaware or forgetful or whatever. And now you've turned someone away from registering to vote wrongly out of ignorance. And now they, it becomes a hurdle and they just feel like, I don't know what to do. Sounds like an excuse, but these are the realities that will be faced concerning these changes. And again, you're seeing it federally, and you're also seeing it sweeping the nation and state legislative bodies. All right. This is how elections are moving towards. This is where we're moving towards with our elections. Now, the bigger group, and we're gonna tuck this in after this. The bigger group that is threatened by these legislative changes will be those who are women that married and dropped their maiden name and took on the name of their spouse. Women will not, without a passport, married women without a passport will face additional hurdles with these legislative changes because the names will not match. And this is something to think about. And we're talking about millions of people across this country. As we look at the Federal SAVE Act, and then when you look at state legislative bills that are being passed through various chambers, it may become the same thing. So just to make you aware of it, please make sure that you keep up with what is happening around proving citizenship. And it's funny, we have to pay to get evidence of our citizenship. Because shouldn't these same record holding offices and agencies around our country, shouldn't they have a database of citizens that could print out citizenship proof without citizens having to foot the bill for it? I don't know. It's just me. I'm just trying to think about what makes the most sense, because you already have the information. Because again, I'm going back to Article 4, full faith and credit. All right. Any questions here? Any questions, thoughts, comments, any questions? All right. Any questions? None? All right. So I'm going to go over what I mean by Article 4, full faith and credit. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. And the Congress may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. That's Section 1 of Article 4. The reason why I'm talking about this is a birth certificate is a record. A passport is also a record. Why aren't we combining these across states? It just almost makes too much sense to just do that. But instead, we're putting the onus on individuals. And I just think that sucks. Because if we cross-reference marriage licenses that have your maiden name, so when the name is changed to the married name, right, the spouse's name, why isn't there a database being shared amongst the many or several states? Why isn't that being exchanged readily? Why is the onus on the individual citizens? Just makes sense to me. All right, so that covers elections, that covers or for the purpose of today, that covers elections, that covers what's the other thing? Gerrymandering, redistricting, and voting. Okay. So thank you for tuning in today. Hopefully this has been marvelous. It's been beneficial to you. I am going to check right now to see if we have any new registrations. If you don't know how to register, you can go to our YouTube page, Pretty Petty Politics, and under the description on Pretty Petty Politics is included we got one new person registered. There is a Google form for you to complete. Please make sure you complete it with an accurate email address. Yumika, welcome to the course. Welcome to the community, our global classroom, all the way from Illinois. So make sure you register. That way you get the communications for the course. All right. Book club emails went out this week. If you are interested in joining the book club, you got to send me that count me in email. It includes a gift as well as instruction about the book that we will be reviewing together. I can't find my copy. I gotta find my copy. It might be. I know where it might be. But I gotta find my copy. It also gives you an overview of it in the email. Our first discussion will be May 8th at 7:30 p.m. That will not be streamed. So if you're not a part of the book club, you won't be a part of that conversation. And it will be very enriching. Also, and that's a Thursday, May 10th, we will meet on May 10th. I think that's a Saturday. I've shifted the class days and times some. So anyway, just look at the email from last Saturday. If you're new in this space and you're registering today, you will get the updated email. We will have a limited space Zoom special that will not be streamed, but you must register for that. That registration went out last week in the email. That will be on May 15th. We don't have any planned classes for June and July. However, I will provide lectures as needed with relevant implications. So if something occurs that people are requesting information about, or that I feel needs further explanation, I will provide either definitely video context, but a live lecture for that. June and July, I'm just taking care of me. So that'll be on a case-by-case basis. But again, that special Zoom or that Zoom special, please complete that registration link that was sent to you last Saturday and will be sent again after today's class for that May 15th Zoom. All right. Are there any questions? Oh, Valerie just got her book. Are there any questions? Any at all? Well, good. We are done. An hour and a half. Now, don't just raise your hands all at once. All right. So, again, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you are registered. Please subscribe to the YouTube. Help me reach my goal. I want to have 1,000 subscribers, y'all. I'm at 790. Let's see where we are. I'm at 796. I know I can get 204 subscribers by June 30th. All right. So by the end of June, let's get to 1,000. So please, those of you who are subscribed, please share this with your group, like your friend circle, your folks that you talk about these kind of things with. Share this platform with them. Help me get to 1,000. And before I go, please, if you have not, if you want to support me personally, like monetarily, you can purchase my recipe collection, Not by Bread Alone. It is available on Amazon, or you can go to my website, julimcshay.com. It's on my profile on TikTok, and it's on your screen right now on YouTube. You can go and you can purchase the ebook, and I will email that to you almost immediately, unless it's late at night because I'm asleep. So I will email it to you the next morning. But if you purchase that, that is a way that you can support me and still get something out of it, in addition to this good information that is being shared here. And I see we have a question in the comments on YouTube. All right. So that question is, has the census always been every 10 years? Who or what decided it would be every 10 years? So no, it hasn't always been every 10 years. It started in the in the 19th century, so the 1800s. It started in the 1800s, and but the every 10-year thing. But census counts aren't new or unique to the United States. Census counts have always been taken. I mean, you can look back into biblical times and see census counts being taken. All right. So, Nita says she started reading Framed, but she lost interest. She loves the author and have read most of his books. I know it can be with Framed. Oh, someone already said it. Courtney says try the audiobook, and that's what I was going to suggest. The thing about Framed is because it's not sensationalized like John Grisham's fictional books. It's not sensationalized. It can be dry to see how an individual, like in telling the story, it's only so much, so many adjectives they could add to make it colorful as they describe how individuals were framed and railroaded through our criminal justice system. So it's not a sexy read. I'll agree with you. Framed by John Grisham and Jim McCloskey, to me, is a good book, but it's not a sexy book, and it's not an easy read. It's a necessary read. But like Courtney said, try the audiobook and listen to it in traffic, listen to it when you're cleaning the house, when you're exercise, like whatever, when you just can absorb it through hearing instead of sitting down and reading it. That will help. All right. Any other questions or comments from anyone? We still have time. Technically, we have 29 more minutes, but we don't have to stay that long. So anything else? Anything else? All right. Anything else? Let me know. All right. So again, let's see. Valerie, I'm coming to you. So Framed is something we're reading because I shared it. The other one that you weren't supposed to put out there, we are reading for the book club. Okay? We're reading for the book club. That's why I haven't repeated it. Anything else? Any other questions or comments? I'm gonna hide that one. Any other questions or comments before we go? You're welcome. I'm happy to do it. It's okay, Valerie. We all do it. We all make mistakes. Thank you, Tori, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. This has been great. Make sure you like, share, and follow. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. All right, we are out of here. Bye. Bye, YouTube.